So I think I'm going to launch in to printing some fabric, because this workshop, for me, one of the things I love about it is that it is so accessible and direct, and it kind of smashes that mindset that printing needs to be complicated. How many of you here are thinking about one day printing your own fabrics when you can afford the screens to do the screen printing? Okay. So today we set you free from that trap in your head where you feel that you don't have the money to start. Now, these fabrics that we're going to work on today come from a charity store. So there were sheets that I bought at a charity store, and the beneficiaries from this are a couple of orphanages. And I think there's an old age home also. So if you are thinking about ways of saving money to make clothing, think about thrift stores. Think about the Denusa market down the road. We were there at the taxi rank yesterday morning. Okay, there is so much potential. There's so much cloth at a good price that you can find. And even once the bales have been sorted and people have gone through it and found picked all the beautiful garments out, the remnants can still be converted into something. If they're good fabrics, big pieces of good fabric, you can now take them home and convert them into other things. So these are mostly cottons and polycottons, and we've even got this lovely winter sheeting here, which I'm very happy and love to print on winter sheeting. And then we've got some colors here also. So part of your kit today is going to include 2 pieces of white and 2 pieces of colored fabric, that when it's your turn to print, you can help yourself to over here. The most complicated thing about this process really is getting the ink to the right consistency to use. So what a lot of people want to do is they want to scoop ink like this. Now, if I put paint onto something like this, it's going to be big, lumpy, messy stuff that's going to go everywhere. So what we actually want to do is we actually want to thin the paint out a little. And we're going to do it here in the bottom of the tray. So by doing this, I'm getting a nice even coating of paint around the sponge. Now, did you see how lightly I did that? I'm just going to borrow one of these here. You don't press down. Pressing down shortens the lifespan of your sponge and also sucks up more paint than you really need to use for the job. If you have just a very thin coating of paint on the sponge roller, you get a much better result out. Now, anything with a shape can create a print. So I'm just going to start with my lunch tube. I know you're all going, that's too easy, hey?
Incredible.
I know, deeper. Okay, so this is the point in the class where everyone says, is that it? Okay, yes, that's it. Okay, any shaped surface with some paint on it, if you press down, will create a mark. The only secret to this that you need to know is that there is a blanket underneath it. This padding is vital to the process. If you try to do this just on a hard table, you don't get the full transfer of the full shape. So the blanket's not there to keep the table clean. The blanket is there for padding, so that when we print, the whole print registers. Now from here, okay, we've got a shape on the fabric. So what else can we talk about when it comes to fabric design? Well, there's different ways to print it. We can print in random ways, so it's scattered. I like to take my prints off the edge of the fabric so that they don't look contrived, like they're all floating in the middle of the cloth. So don't be afraid to print off the edge of the fabric, because remember, most of the fabric that we buy has prints running off the edge of it. So in this case, I'm just putting down some scattered prints And you can see how I can build that up. I can add other prints over it. I can start to bring other colors and other shapes in. Now, what if I was to set it up just slightly differently? And I use them like that to start to build up a border, so you can make borders on things, curtaining, bedding, pillowcases. Great way of upcycling pillowcases at home. Okay, and then we could take it even one step further and use it to create almost a tiled print. Look at this beautiful kind of retro print that it would make if we start to repeat it. So you can see in that way we could make a fabric that's got a print all over, from edge to edge. Now picture in your planning, when you're starting to make your collection, you want to make a piece that's printed all over with this kind of tiled effect for the top. You just print the border on the skirt. You can print before you make or after. Is it becoming exciting?
Yeah.
Okay. When I've finished with this, I'm just going to put it in the water so that the paint doesn't dry on it. And then one of the other things that I use and that you've all got in your kit is a little piece of towel like this. These towels were also from the thrift shop, also from the charity shop. So they're also part of supporting the charity shop. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a different color. And here I'm going to be a bit naughty. So I don't like to waste ink, and every time I have to clean up, I throw paint away.
Yeah.
So I've got lots of different ways of just ignoring that part of the process. And I often will just carry on and mix things on the tray. Don't be afraid to mix things on the tray. Now, actually, these little trays are not so nice. They're a bit tiny for me. I like to mix my paint on a bucket lid. Big round bucket lid. It's flat, it's bigger, and there's more space for mixing and playing with colors. So this is the same shape lid. I don't know if you can see, we've got these vertical stripes happening here. So I kind of want them going in the same direction. And we can do things like this, where you offset something over another color. Oh, now I'm going a bit skew. But you get the idea. Yes. Absolutely. Okay, now going back to your earlier question about how do you get colors to blend? Where was that blending thing? Okay, just layer them over each other, they'll be fine. So I learned a very interesting thing from the tie-dye. And that is that if you use two colors to mix together to make something, that blended color that they make will create a bridge for your eye. And as soon as you've overlapped paint, you've created that bridge for your eye. So even if you're working with two colors that are very incongruous, you can often still get away with mixing them. And particularly with this technique, because it'll give you places where there is that blending, that layering. And that's where your eye finds the marriage and goes, oh, these colors work together. So I'm just going to experiment with a few more shapes, because it really is a very simple technique, but we can experiment with some more shapes and exciting things. So these are all things that I found in my home. The detail, you decide where you want it on the garment. Add some beads. And you saw I didn't make those with much care. If you know, when you get into flow and you place them carefully and you know what you want. As a basis for beadwork, it's a great process as well, because you can lay something down and then lift it up with the beadwork on top afterwards. Okay, what else have we got here that's interesting? And then of course you can play in all sorts of different ways once you get going. Handmade prints are definitely something that I love, and I favor liner over screen. I fell in love with liner printing in the 1990s, and I know it doesn't give you as crisp a print as you get out of a screen print, but for me it's got this charm. You can suggest with it. It's not in your face, it's a suggestion, it's a hint, it's a feeling, it's a, you know, it's not these crisp. If you want copy, if you want branding, nothing beats a screen print. But if you want a feeling, a suggestion, a look, something very customized, this is a great route to go. Okay, so that was the grater. Let's see what else we can pull out here. This is a favorite of mine when I teach children. Can you see it? So I've also got an ebook that I've written. I use this technique with school teachers where we teach kids mathematical ideas using this method. It's great for early learning, like 5-6 years old, to teach the mathematical concepts. So there's the hearts.
Oh, it's beautiful. I can't believe from this something as useless as toilet roll.
And it took me like 30 seconds to make it.
Yeah.
You just like bend it, and there's your tulle, and there's your sponge roller. Yeah, this is not so. It's quite interesting. So you see these lines that are happening here. Those lines are coming from this cross hatching on the tray, and I'm used to. Remember, I said I'm used to working on a flat end surface. So now we've got this new thing happening. What I'll sometimes do is if I've got a lace that's very beautiful, I'll just run the paint straight over it. Feathers are wonderful also, because a feather you can lay the feather down and push the paint over it, or you can put the paint on the feather and then press it into the cloth. So you can get positive and negative imprints out of it. Buttons are a bit finicky to work with. Yes. So what I would do if I was working with buttons and doing something big is I'd like to glue them onto something. Yeah. And for that job I would use, so this button has a raised edge here, so it's only going to give us a round. So that's the one side of the button. Now I'm gonna ink up the other side, just so that you can see also the shape of the button does make a difference. There we go. It's quite light, because I didn't get the ink on very thick, but it is there. I don't know if you can see it. And a lot of it's about experimentation as well. Don't be afraid to experiment and play. Let's try another color. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so excited. So here I'm gonna do that thing again. So we can learn a couple of things from this here. Can you see that here it says African? It's got writing on it. I'm just going to ink it up. I just want to see if the words will come out here. And that's going to depend on how clear the imprint is on the thing that you're printing, as well as the texture of your cloth. So if you've got a fabric that's very, very textured and coarse, your print is less clear than if you've got a very, very smooth fabric. Oh my goodness, look at that. That printed beautifully. I'm going to send it around. Then you can all have a look. What happens if we print over another print? So I made a bit of a name for myself a couple of years ago on Facebook when I did lino printed fabrics. I did lino prints over fabrics that had existing prints on. So picture a tartan with white hearts on top. Fabrics like you've never seen before, because they've got incongruous things going on like you've never seen before. And that's what you can create with this. So here we've got something that's got a stripe on, and we can now add something over that. So corrugated cardboard is one of my other fun favorites. So can you see I folded it there? And this kind of picks up with what's already going on there. Okay, now that was really random. And it doesn't look dissimilar to commercial fabrics that you might buy.
Yeah. And you can start to mix two different colors also. Yeah.
Yes.
And then something else.
Do you feel ready to try this?
Yes.
Okay. There's the fabric. Here's the paint. you all have tools. There is cyan, magenta, yellow, black, white, gold. And you're going to find they're all a little bit different to work with. So your cyan, magenta, yellow are going to be a bit stickier, more see-through. The black's going to be very sticky and very solid. The white is going to be more textured. It's got more gritty. It's not as fine and smooth as the others. And then the gold is the least smooth of all and will sit on the surface of the fabric. Let me just show you. I've got a piece of black cloth. Is there a piece of black scrap somewhere? So I'm just going to show you with my finger how it looks. Okay, I've applied it quite thick. What you also see is this gold doesn't show up so well on, like, it won't show up so well on this color that I've got here. That's why I haven't tried. Because this is it's got too many gold tones in it. So it's not gonna work. Okay, so please come help yourselves. Oh, the one thing I didn't explain is the spray bottle. This is just to spray your sponge a little bit and your paint so it doesn't dry out. If your paint dries out on your sponge, on the sponge itself, then it becomes like plastic and you can't use it again. Okay, so you want to keep your sponge moist. When you're finished, in the water and clean it out nice. That's just water. Just water. Just water. And then here I've got a bunch of things that you can try. And if you can think of things that are in your handbag, you had a wonderful thing. This I would use for making texture. Let's see what kind of texture I get out of it. Yeah, it just gives us like a texture. This one will work better on like a white fabric. And then there's also, I've got lots of cardboard here. You can cut shapes out. You can go over the shape like this, or you can press the shape onto the fabric. Very rough, but it looks great, doesn't it? Yes. There's a place for it. Okay, off you go. Off you go. It's your turn. Now it's your turn. Okay.